your mother? It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just a trio of feathery brethren weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Bo, Sheil, and Zach kicking it cooler than 3 penguins till Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Bo, Sheil, and Zach coming at you with steps and things flapping their wings
Statistics,
on.
they can be like bathing suits. What they, what.
Finish it up. Sometimes you gotta take them off.
What the hell?
What they show is revealing, but what they conceal is vital, right? So.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Birds with Friends on a Thursday afternoon. Bo Wolf, Sheil Kapadia, Zach Berman here. We have sort of given the short shrift to A.J. Brown through this draft process, so we're going to blow out that conversation. I feel like Sheil's giving me a weird face.
Yeah, I don't think
like
that's
idea?
true. No, I don't think I don't even know what a shrift is, but I don't think we've given him anything short. So.
Well, I don't think, it's not that we've underplayed it, but I feel like if this had happened at any point of the offseason, all we would do is talk about A.J. Brown. There was other things to talk about, so we're going to zoom in on the guy who's, as Zach reminded me, he's the highest paid player on the team, and he's got the longest contract. So let's get to know this guy a little bit, and so we're going to bring in a couple good friends of the pod, some debuts. The official Titans beat reporter of Birds with Friends, and the official national reporter of Birds with Friends. So stay tuned for those conversations. Sheil, how
Are you going to say their names, or you're just?
I never know what to do because I like when we promote the episode, their names will be in there. But I also if someone's just listening to the show, do we want to keep it as a surprise?
I think you should just say
get
it.
a pop like it's a surprise Royal Rumble entrant.
I think we should just say it. Are you going to be offended if I say it?
No,
It's
go
the
ahead.
art of the tease, by the way.
Yeah,
that's what you have to do. You have to tease it.
We have.
Well, yeah, but
Taron
this way I'm
Davenport.
teasing it. You really got to wait and find out.
We have Taron Davenport and we have Dianna Rossini. So it's going to be a great show. I know Bo likes to weave these segments together. I like to just let the audience in on what we're doing. I mean, we already talked to Taron Davenport as I'm speaking right now, and it was a great conversation.
That's
so
true.
Now I can say with authority that is worth staying tuned into, and we're going to knock out the intro here, and then we're going to talk to Dianna Rossini. See, we don't need to deceive our audience here. We can just
No one's
tell them
deceiving.
exactly,
I didn't say we aren't going to have those people. I just wanted to leave a little mystery. I'm trying to keep my bikini on. You're trying to go to a nude beach.
All right, that sounds like a Zach comparing something to analytics or something.
That's exactly
all
right.
right.
That's the
what do we got
reference,
going on in Eagles land before we do our
well, let's send it over to the Stone Cold Newsman for the latest on the moving and shaking machinations in the Eagles front office.
The draft is complete. The offseason program is underway. The rookie minicamp is this weekend. Veterans are in the building. We had a chance to speak yesterday to Jalen Hurts, to Brandon Graham, to Jason Kelsey, Devontae Smith, and Darius Slay. You can find all that coverage on The Athletic, on our Twitter accounts, but a lot of people in the building, like we said. But the reason I said the draft is complete is because this is the time of the calendar when the scouting staff gets shaken up a bit, right? And some years more than others. And you're already seeing reports trickle out. Catherine Rach is headed to Cleveland reportedly to be the assistant general manager. The Eagles that would be the third big loss in the Eagles front office. We saw Ian Cunningham leave and Brandon Brown leave earlier this year, so that would be 3 vice presidents who have left in one calendar year, or actually one off season, and also reports of executives or people in the front office whose contracts were either not renewed or they were fired, and that group reportedly includes Casey Weidel, who is the scouting coordinator, I believe, and also the brother of Andy, the Eagles vice president of player personnel. So certainly a lot that is still going to happen. The Eagles have some major jobs to fill in their front office, and you can expect some external hires to come in the next few weeks.
All right, so you both have brothers. Let's say you and your brothers are working at The Athletic. I mean, you're loving the job, you're loving doing a podcast. But the higher ups say, "Hey, we gotta make some cuts here. Your brother's out of here." I mean, what are you doing? Are you keeping your job? Or are you saying, if he's out, I'm out?
Yeah, I mean, F you. I mean, come on. What are we doing
to your
here?
brother or to the company?
No, to the company.
Oh, you're
come
out
on.
then. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I may not like storm out of the door that day, but the first opportunity I have, I'm jumping ship and I'm like burning the place down behind me. Come on.
ZB?
Well, obviously,
you have a lot of brothers.
Yeah, I'm loyal to my.
Yeah, it depends
siblings.
on which one, I guess. For Zach.
I don't want to. No, definitely doesn't depend on which one. I love all my brothers and my sister, by the way.
Okay, but let's say you were working with all of your brothers and you had to choose one of them to fire. Who would it be?
I like that.
I would not fire a brother.
Wow, you'd fire Jenna?
No, nor a sister. No, I would resign. I would recuse myself and make sure they keep their jobs. But no, honestly,
but if that's not an option,
I don't want to.
This is like yesterday. Jimmy Kempski, Zach asked Devontae who the second best basketball player on the team was, and he didn't really answer. And Jimmy's like, "No, we need an answer from that." So this is Sheil's version of that. We need an answer.
No, but to answer your question, Sheil, without knowing the full context here, it's hard for me to say. Obviously, there's something up there. Now, sometimes in these positions that there's someone else they want to put in there, or there might be something else lined up. I'm gonna wait until I see how this all plays out. But
wow, you won't even answer.
No, I
so hypothetical about you.
He's like, maybe they had it coming, or the company found someone better than my brother.
Oh no, I'm not talking about my brother anymore. I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking about the Eagles now.
I'm talking about the Eagles. Okay, sorry, I was focused on the podcast at hand here. Yeah, so obviously there's something up there. We'll try to find out more. I simply don't have enough information on this yet to really say what's going on. I do know that we were expecting changes this offseason, and so this is just kind of, I think, the tip of the iceberg. I think there's going to be a lot of movement, whether it's promotions, whether it's external hires. There's going to be a lot of movement there. So we'll see how those chairs look at the end. And of course, we should mention Andy is a candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers general manager job. He's from Pittsburgh, interviewed for that job, has ties to the organization, worked under Kevin Colbert and Tom Donahoe there. So certainly something to monitor as well.
Well,
let me ask a why here. Let me ask a why here, because Zach said we're expecting changes. If you're an Eagles fan and you're looking at this going, last year's draft looks very promising with Devontae Smith. I mean, even at the time we were saying this draft seems to make a lot of sense. And then they had a promising rookie year. You don't want to crown anybody. And then this offseason, I think for the most part has gotten pretty glowing reviews from us, from Eagles fans. The AJ Brown trade, even if we wouldn't have taken Jordan Davis, we could see the thought behind taking him there. The rebuild has, I think been pretty strong from that Carson Wentz trade to where we are now. So when you said we were expecting changes in the front office, why? Why would that be the case? Or is it just Andy Weidel interviewing for the Steelers job?
Oh, I wasn't even talking about Andy yet. I was talking about replacing. I mean, the best analogy I would use is if 3 of your starting offensive linemen signed in free agency elsewhere.
Okay.
Would you want to just promote their backups, or would you see if you can bring in someone from somewhere else to be a starter? So the Eagles have 3 big jobs. Now they kind of created titles, right? Like Ian Cunningham and Brandon Brown had the same job title. But in essence, though, those are 2 vice presidents. Catherine Rach, that was the job that was created for Andrew Berry, right? But that's a big title. So you have 3 big titles there, and you can just kind of keep this internal pipeline, or you can also view this as a chance to go and find somebody else, bring in different perspectives and different voices. So I would expect external changes. And other than that, I mean, we'll see where the cookie crumbles here in terms of Andy's a situation.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. They've now lost 3 people to basically assistant GM jobs. It's as if like the setup of the organization is so that is almost like a guarantee, because they don't have that job. Yep. And so if somebody wants that job, they have to go get it.
And why not? I mean, if they like this person, why wouldn't they just say, let's make you can be an assistant GM here. You don't have to go anywhere else.
Yeah, that's a valid question. And a little background there. So in 2000 and 15 going into 16. So after that ship year, right, when the Eagles kind of shook up the front office, at that time, Howie Roseman had this title, Executive Vice President of Football Operations. And they were putting him back in charge, but they also didn't want it to seem like he just had his old job back and he was the GM, right? So they said what they're going to do is they're going to hire a really strong personnel executive, and that person's going to be in charge of the personnel department. And that's when they brought in Joe Douglas, and Joe Douglas brought in his staff, which included Andy Weidel, which included Ian Cunningham, right? So that was the case. And then, that's kind of the structure that they had. And then what happened was Joe left for the Jets, and Howie kept the Executive Vice President of Football Operations title, but then also got the General Manager title back at that point. But he never had like a true assistant GM. What he had was VPs in charge of different departments. So you have your VP of player personnel, you have your VP of football operations, and those are different departments, right? So there isn't really someone who's like that true number two. Andy oversees the personnel department, which is pro and college scouting. Okay, football operations includes your analytics department, people, equipment, things, different things within the football building, but not necessarily scouting. So there's different departments there, and he has VPs to run different areas.
And if you're just talking about the scouting side of the building in terms of like who's still left and who could be potentially promoted internally, you've got Tom Donahoe, our old friend, who's a senior football advisor. You've got former Jaguars general manager Dave Caldwell, who's just a personnel executive. My understanding is like it would be weird for him maybe to like then. It just doesn't seem like a fit for him to be like the assistant GM. It seems like he's more of a consultant. And then you've got Anthony Patch, who's the senior director of college scouting, and Alan Walking, who's the director of college scouting, who I did the story with at Tennessee a couple of years ago. And then there's also Max Gruder, who's the assistant director of pro scouting. So everybody else is like the area scout level. Those are the people who could be potentially promoted. Also, Jeff McClain reported today that the Eagles talked to Jim Nagy, the director of the Senior Bowl, for a position, and they're also going to talk to the guy from the Steelers, Brandon Hunt.
An IUP guy,
among other people. So.
Yeah. So, and Brandon Hunt, if you remember, was actually a candidate for that personnel opening that I talked about. Actually, no, he was a candidate, I believe, in 2015 for the job that might have gone to Ed Manowitz. But he's interviewed with the Eagles before. So he was a candidate for either the Manowitz job or the Joe Douglas job.
It seems
and also like these open positions are also maybe sort of a carrot for like if you bring somebody in, you maybe want there to be some holes for them to be able to help fill with some of their people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it seems like Howie has his sort of, I don't know if faction is the right word, but guys who he has been around for a while, who they're going to stay. And then there was this transitioning from Joe Douglas came in, brought in some of his people that continued with Andy Weidel. Now, if if Weidel's, leaving, which again, we don't know, but maybe then, you bring in somebody else and they're able to bring in their own people. I mean, it does seem like that job is like, the hashtag football guy job, the Joe Douglas, the Andy Weidel, sort of the old school scouting type guy. I mean, would you agree with that? I mean, that's what it seems like just from who they've had and who they're looking at.
Wouldn't you be surprised if Andy comes back? Even if he doesn't get the Steelers job, like
brother,
it
would seem weird to me.
He could go to the Jets, right, and work for Joe. I don't know.
Well, Joe wanted him back in 2018, and they blocked him. They kept him there. I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm certainly going to be watching.
Okay. Well, since we're giving it all away, the inside sausage here. We're running up against time to start our
use that term again.
Our interview with Dianna. So why don't we take a break, and we'll be back with that, and then later stick around for the interview with Turron. So good show to come. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.
No one likes waiting on a paycheck, especially when you've got bills to pay. Good thing there's Chime. Now you can get your paycheck up to 2 days early with direct deposit. That's up to 2 more days to save, pay bills, and generally just feel good about your money situation. But Chime is more than just about getting paid early. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and optional savings account. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes. Get started at chime.com/BWF. That's chime.com/BWF. With spring in the air, it's a time of renewal and growth personally and professionally. As your small business grows, LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/BWF. That's linkedin.com/BWF to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right. Well, I think this has been a long time coming. We have finally mustered up the courage to welcome to the show the official national reporter of Birds with Friends, Dianna Rossini of ESPN. Thank you for joining us.
Guys, I have been waiting so long to get the formal invite. And when the message came through Twitter, I screamed, "Oh my God!" And my husband, who you guys know is your number one fan, truly was like, "What?" I said, "Birds with Friends just asked me to come on the podcast." I don't know why it took so long. I feel like you guys have a really tough you are a tough judge of the type of reporters you want. So I'm hoping by now, after 7 years at ESPN and breaking a few stories and being on TV every day, I am finally good enough for this show.
You have finally made it. This is a big this is big for you. So we wanted to have you on because you are as plugged into.
She loves the show, how much Birds with Friends apparel there is in their household, how much they talk about what a great podcast there is. But
whose voice like puts your son to bed.
Yeah, we can talk about, her terrific
all this
reporting.
Stuff is very true, by the way. I do believe that a podcast, and those that are listening right now, I think will agree with me that, when you choose to listen to a certain podcast or whatever podcast people like to, and I'm going to assume those that are listening right now are your weekly listeners. It's an intimate experience. You're in people's ears and they feel like they know you. And I think that's while I love your information and I love your analysis, I think that's why you're so popular in my house, is because we feel like we know you guys and you're like an extension of our family, which is so crazy to think about, right? When you do this every day, that's how people take you in. And I just think that's such a compliment to the show, that while you're so educational and I know like the Eagles fans in my life love the analysis and the info, but they can get it anywhere else and they come here. So that's why I'm actually really excited to be here, because I know how loyal the listeners are.
I think I knew, I didn't realize what a sicko your husband might have been until I think you told the story, and correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but there was something going on in Eagles land. You, of course, have sources all over the place until, you were just kind of filling him in on what's happening. And I think you told me he said something to the effect of, well, I got to listen to Birds with Friends to see, if that's accurate or if they feel the same way about it. You're like, hey, I'm a national reporter with sources all around the NFL, and you're going to go listen to this podcast and not believe what I say.
I'm on some of the most watched TV shows on television, right? And my husband does not care, but this will be something he will listen to on his way home from work as soon as you guys post. And his whole vibe will be so different, because he'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm married to this person, where it's like, well, what about all the other things I do that I'm really proud of? So yeah, this is all really cool. And I feel like I should preface this. You guys, listeners don't know this, but I know you guys because you know me. I'm from Northern New Jersey, and everyone in Philly knows Northern New Jersey is very different than Southern Jersey. And I grew up, so I'm 39 years old. I grew up my entire life before I met my husband and had never met anyone from Philadelphia. I had never even been there.
Wow.
So I met him 3 years ago.
That sounds like a sorry existence, by the way.
Right? Like, it's not even that far. It's like 2 hours tops. And now I'm there all the time. And the experiences that I've had with Eagles fans has just been just all over the map in terms of what I've dealt with.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it's just really intense. And my husband's family, they have season tickets. And my husband at the time was my boyfriend, and he said, I'd really like you to come to a game when you don't have to work a Sunday game. And I happened to have off, and it worked out. And I was like, all right, I'm going to spend my day off from football to go to football, but okay, let's do it. And he never informed me that their season tickets are in the last row of the link. The top last row, the wall is behind us. That's where they lean up against.
Next to God, yeah.
Yeah. And so I get up there, and I'm, you're dating someone, so you're lying and hiding all these weaknesses anyway. So I don't want to be snobby and be like these are really bad seats, But he's up there. He's like, "Do you like them?" I'm like, yeah.
"Do you like them?"
He goes, "It's all 22."
I like that. I respect that. Yes.
And I was
that's a football guy right there.
Yeah, I was like, totally all 22. Get me out of here. And I really, it was the best experience for me actually in covering the league in terms of understanding what fans care about and how smart, believe it or not, Eagles fans are when it comes to football. The things that they were yelling and screaming, I could not believe how much they understood. Not that I was going into it thinking, oh, they're just dumb, stupid, and drunk. I just assumed every fan was kind of like my
just
own
the last
brother,
one,
which is just kind of stupid and whatever. They were amazing, and I was like, I just want to sit up here every game and talk to this crowd about what we're seeing. So after that experience, I can't be a fan of any team, but I will say anything Eagles related, I just get so pumped for, just because I know how it hits in your city.
Now, yeah, like speaking of that, how in terms of how much of a sicko your husband is it the kind of thing where like the Eagles lose and the first few days of the week are like he's just going to be in a bad mood?
Yeah, no, it's a problem in our marriage. It's hard. I'm being really serious. And his brothers and his friends, they're all on group text, and it's just constant, and everything depends on whether or not the Eagles win that week. Our from what we eat to the tone in the house, and it's unbelievable when they win. I am the happiest person in the world when they win, not because I care if the Eagles won. It's just because I know my husband feels complete, and it gives him hope. And I've heard about the 2017 Super Bowl, guys, every detail of the game, the parade, everything. So at nighttime, most parents read books. My husband talks about the game to our son Michael and tells him, and as if he's going to recall it at 9 months old. So it's intense.
If you want to combine the two, by the way, there's a book about that Super Bowl that you can read to him. So.
Oh yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending me one and dedicated to Kevin and Michael,
absolutely,
that would be great. But yeah, it's funny. I've talked to Chris Long about this because Chris was one of my favorite. He was my favorite Eagle when he was there, and I had just started dating Kevin, and I told Chris because at that point we had known each other for so long, and our relationship were pretty tight. And I was like, I'm dating a dude from Philly. He's like, you sure you want to do that? I said, no, he's amazing. He's like the sweetest guy. He's like, but is he into sports? I'm like, diehard, every part of it. He's like, well, you better make a decision now. Are you all in or not? Because that's how it's a religion. And he was right. It was good advice. And I went all in, and now I'm all in. In fact, and I would like to transition to some news stuff here. And I think you guys will appreciate this. So we know the A.J. Brown trade was big. And guys, we're 8 days later, and we're still talking about it because I think there's still a little shock. I think there's still excitement and euphoria coming from Philly. I think there's sadness still in Tennessee. But I obviously had to have a lot of different people sharing information with me over those few days that there were discussions and talks, and when it was finally green lit. And I had one source text me, which I wish I could print it and put it in my refrigerator. I should, but I erased everything. That said, you need to promise this does not get out. And I said, I'm not reporting. You need to trust me. I have to check with the other sides, but I have to do my reporting. And the person wrote, not even Kevin, which made me laugh that he knew the first person I was going to tell was Kevin, because he was going to lose his mind. And I stuck with it because later on, the first text I get when I tweet was from Kev. It was like, why wouldn't you tell me this?
Right.
And I just was like, I couldn't. I was scared to go to text the guys, and it would find out, turn up on Reddit or on some sports talk radio. It wasn't worth it to me. And he's like, it's fine, whatever. So yes. So ask away whatever you guys want to know about that.
So the thing from the Eagles' end is like, why would the Titans let this guy go, right? This 24-year-old who's going to be 25 in June, who is like an all-pro caliber receiver from the Titans side, and you're as plugged in there as anybody. Like, why? Why would they be willing to let this guy go?
Bo, I very rarely go, no goddamn way. When I find out little tips like that, I was like, I can't remember the last time I felt this way, where it was like, are you serious? Only because the Titans have been so open with us about, we're not trading him. AJ's camp had shared with me, it'll get done. Stop calling us. It'll get done. AJ, people close to AJ, like, he wants to be here. This isn't going to be a Debo thing. He's not going to ask for a trade. He wants to be in Nashville. He loves Vrabel. He loves Derrick Henry, loves Ryan Tannehill. They're all good, and I've seen it. I cover them a lot. They have something special in Nashville. So I understand that. Obviously, the money is the reason, right? Sure and simple, the headline of this is AJ Brown left Tennessee because he did not get the money he wanted. End of story. But this was personal, and there was a lot more to this and the decision making. And I give AJ a lot of credit in the press conference with you guys. He was pretty honest about how he felt, because I spoke to him after the trade, and a lot of the things he shared with you guys, he shared with me of just, this is bittersweet. I don't know if he's fully like over the mourning period yet of Tennessee, because even he is shocked because this all came together. So just to backtrack, to give you guys a little timeline. So draft's Thursday, we know. Okay, so I'm covering the New York Giants. That's my assignment for ESPN. So I'm just zoned in on that. I got to be good on them. I got to figure out who they're going with. Most
Zach Stream drop.
Yeah, but for them, you look at it this way, like, you can't mess that up. They got all these picks. They what am I really digging on? But you have to do your job. So I'm talking to Giants, and something made me reach out to the Jets. I think it was like, I was wondering if the Jets were worrying about what the Giants were doing. It was something like that. So I just was making some casual conversation with the Jets. And they know I cover Tennessee a lot. So the person I was talking to was like, dude, AJ, can't believe it. I'm like, can't believe what? He's like, dude, he's on the trading block. I'm like, he's not on the trading block. There's no freaking way. Nice. I thought he was just like joking with me. And then I had somebody else from the Jets, a lower level person, text me the same thing. Like, you hearing this? I'm like, whoa. And that's when I knew this could happen. The Titans don't float stuff to teams because they know stuff gets out. They operate very Patriot way. Like, they know once you start talking, other people are going to talk. They try to keep stuff in house. So I start hitting up the Titans. I'm getting nothing. Just absolutely. Usually they'll give me not commenting, hit up someone else. I'm getting zero. Like,
I know the feeling. Yeah.
So I'm like, this is weird. This is weird. This is telling me something. Only because it was just crickets from everyone. So I tried Browns camp, and I didn't get a yes, but I didn't get like, you're on the wrong trail, So I knew something was brewing. So I was like, all right, I'll just keep. So if you think about it this way, from an insider perspective, the only line of communication I have at this point is the Jets. Mm-hmm. But the Jets were telling me they were out of it. They're like, we're not doing it. But just so I'm like, can you find out more? Can you like ask them who else? I'm pretty much desperate at this point because I want the story. So Thursday. So now we're at the draft. I've got nothing. It's just kind of sitting there. And Thursday, that's when I get an amazing source who just said, you're on it. You just need more details and you can't go with it. And I was like, oh my God. So now I'm obsessed with it. Now I have to get it. So I normally, and Sheil, you've worked with Schefter before. Like, I normally call Adam in and be like, yo, help me with this. Like, I need your muscles. Like go call someone. But I didn't, because I was like, I'm going to just wear these frickers down and I'm going to get it. And so I just wore everyone down. And eventually I got it from everyone that you need to get a story like this from. but all 3 of them said to me, you cannot go until we say go. All of it. Everyone was agreeing on this. I was like, are you guys all in the same room? But they weren't. So I think it was pick 16. I get not happening. And I'm like, oh, damn. Because, I'm in front, by the way, I'm in front of the camera, right? So the draft is going to come out.
While you're on, wow.
If the story breaks.
Okay.
So I'm like, my adrenaline's going. I'm like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And then I get that one. So I just lose steam. I'm like, oh, man, all that energy all day long. I freaking traded A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans to this wide receiver starving Philadelphia Eagle team. This could be amazing. And then I guess it was as soon as the Chargers were, I guess it was transitioning. I just get go. I got go. I'm like, oh my God. I said, come to me. I'm going like this. And I tweet, and I'm down on my phone. My producer's handling the big draft people, the control room. And he's like, you just focus on your word. I want to empty the barrel too. I want to tell everyone how this all came together, why it came together, the numbers, the contract extension, how it all came together in a day, like all this stuff. Unfortunately, there was some major technical situation in Vegas, and it will forever be the story that I wake up in the middle of the night with a sweat because I didn't get to do it. Like, you guys know, like to get a story from start to finish in the bag on a night like that had so many ramifications. Yeah. It was so juicy with teams that I cover, I was like, I actually left the facility, the Giants facility where I was, and I just went for a long walk and just didn't even look at my phone because I had to just calm down because my job's to be on TV and I didn't get to be on TV. Yeah. Like, Twitter's cool, but that was my moment, So put aside my
own. That's hard. That's tough.
It's crushing, right?
Yeah. But
put aside my own achievements or whatever the heck I was going for that night. Once I went on Van Pelt later that night, and I was driving home, and I think it really was like, oh my God, I can't believe they traded him. I was in shock for a while, and then once I talked to AJ and everybody, and I got everyone on the phone, then I'm like, okay, this makes sense. So, I think they traded him knowing it was a risk. I don't think this is cut and dry, guys, where they're like, you know what, they knew, there isn't, I guess what I'm trying to say to Eagles fans right now too, there isn't this secret about AJ that you guys don't know, that I would know as a reporter covering him and being around him so much and talking to him. That's not it. There's no secret. AJ is awesome. He's an amazing player. He works hard. He's dealt with some knee injury things that's going to come up again. This is all open. There's no, this isn't hidden in some closet. So, the Eagles got an incredible player, and I think this is going to be something we're going to look back at for the Titans side of this and go, was this like a Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson move where they moved on and then got younger? Because the comp to him is the receiver they got.
Right.
They don't match up completely, by the way, when you dig on it a little bit, which I'm sure you guys have. I like that story. I'm not buying it totally. Yeah. But so far from I know the rookies are just there, just little chatter I've had with different people. I'm hearing already things that they like about this kid. So I think this was just a breakup like we've all had before, that you're like, oh, well, let's hope this works out. And that wasn't the one that got away.
How much of it was, well, first of all, I love that storytelling because we can tell how much you love your job, and I'm sure the audience can tell that too. So that was awesome. But how much of it was, sometimes the contract that you're looking for from the team you were drafted, that the team that drafted you, that you're having the initial negotiations, what you want from them might be different than another team. Because I looked at this contract he got from the Eagles, $57 million guaranteed. It's under Devontae Adams. It's under Tyreek Hill. It's under Stephon Diggs. It's really fair market value. No one can look at that and say, shoot, A.J. Brown was making ridiculous contract demands. He's younger than all those guys, by the way. He's entering his prime here at 24, 25 years old. So, the contract he took from the Eagles, it sounds like that was probably not going to be the contract he was looking for from the Titans. Is that sort of fair to say, or is that off base?
That's very fair. Very fair of you. All hell Howie in this situation, right? To be able to pull this off. And I'm glad you brought up like the details of the contract, because once I dug on that as well, I was like, wait, this isn't a lot different than what I believed. I guess what I'm saying, I don't think it would have taken that much for the Titans to have come close to that.
Exactly.
It wasn't. And look, guys, they're kind of in salary cap hell. All right. You know, Tannehill's got the largest cap hit than any other active NFL player right now, right? So they got to deal with Ryan's salary. Then, you know, you got Taylor Lewan, you obviously have Derrick Henry's. They just signed who did they sign?
Landry. They had Landry, Robert Woods.
But Dupree
Robert
last
Woods,
year,
Robert
and
Woods, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I feel bad that I ignored him because I'm like, he's injured, he won't be back for a while. But that was my thought process there. But yeah, so they're divvying out a lot of money right now. So obviously, they felt and believed in their books were telling them they couldn't. But the second layer to this, guys, was how many teams did they call about AJ, right? Because if I'm the Commanders, I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
We could have gotten AJ. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they had an earlier
100%.
pick. Yeah.
So I started to just like ask the teams outside Nashville, because they're not telling me anything. They hate me right now. They don't really hate me, but it's like they don't like the headline, right? They're ready to move on. I called around and you know, teams that were in the hunt for a receiver, let's say like the Packers, the Chiefs, didn't get calls.
Interesting.
They didn't know about it.
Wow.
So I don't know. Is that negligent? Could they
Man, the
have
Packers
gotten
is a
more?
great one. Now, I hadn't thought about that until you mentioned it. If you're a Packers fan and they were willing to pay Devontae Adams, they lose Devontae Adams, and then you replace it. Like right now, I'm thinking people are talking themselves into the Packers. I think they're taking a big step back. I think that was a big deal. But if you would have told the Packers fan you're replacing Devontae Adams with AJ Brown, totally different story. And they had 2 first-round picks. I mean, yeah, they could have given a first and a third and signed him to more money than the Eagles did. So, I hadn't thought of that. But other teams, too, like you mentioned.
And
it's go ahead.
And the Chiefs, when I was down on owners, guys, I don't know if you had heard it as well, but I had heard the Chiefs were sniffing around with teams trying to find out who had receivers that were, let's just call them unhappy, and wanted to talk. So they're another team that had a lot of picks that would have been willing to. So yeah, I don't know how that works to be transparent in terms of a general manager's responsibility. You know, do you just trade with a guy you have a relationship with? Do you trade with guys that you trust? I don't know how they opened up that sweepstakes, but I can tell you, I obviously don't talk to every single team every minute of the day, but from Monday to Thursday, the only team I had been in contact with, that chatted with, was the Jets, who apparently were not that in on AJ. They had the compensation, obviously. They look what they were going to do for Tyreek, right? They could have pulled the trigger, and I bet you I don't know how hot they were on AJ. I was just going to say they probably could have given AJ even more, but in the end, it was just the Jets and Philly, or Jets and the Eagles, and you know.
Well, it's interesting because Howie has said before, like along the lines of the things that keep Zach up, and you know, like you having to take the long walk. The thing that keeps him up at night is not knowing that something is available, like being out of the loop on something.
Worse.
So he probably takes a lot of pride in the fact that he was one of, you know, the 2 calls that the Titans made.
Probably.
And that's why we always say when the Eagles are linked to a player, like they call everybody for that exact reason. But what I'm curious about is at least from the Eagles side, what we heard is that obviously the deal for them was contingent upon the contract, right? And that they didn't get the contract worked out until, I think they said, the 15th pick. And then they were on the clock at 18 when for the trade to go down about 15 minutes later. From your understanding, was this ever in risk of like not going through?
Yeah, who's this mystery it's not happening text that comes in?
No, this was not happening until. So it's a great question, because that was mine from picks 1 to 16. Like, what are we doing here? And it's like, is this going to fall through? And some of the conversations, other sources as well, was just like, is this going to happen? I was like, no, this could fall through. They had agreed on what the compensation would be, first and a third.
Yep.
The deal had to get done, though, and the deal wasn't done I think it's 9:56 is when the story broke. I think the last text I had before the you can go, I think it was like 9:28, and it was like this, no, like stand down, this isn't happening. So, yeah, so it was very much in jeopardy. And by the way, and I'm sure fans know this, the reason why they wanted to keep this so quiet was, from what I understand, if this fell through, there was a chance that AJ was then going to stay with the Titans. I don't know how these guys thought this wasn't going to get out, but in their mind, if this fell through, then maybe they could work something out with AJ, which I don't really understand that side of that, but just think about that. That's, I've done this a long time. I haven't seen something up against the clock like that.
And that probably helped, right? To have an actual deadline, like an actual real deadline, not just a fake deadline that you guys are making up. Like
exactly, Bob. Like it was just they and it was nerve wracking. And you saw the draft rooms. Did you? I'm sure you guys were probably watching it on the NFL Network, so I didn't see how they covered it. And I was.
We had both TVs up. We're equal opportunity.
Yes,
come on.
Got to show some love. I wish I didn't watch the moment or any of that. Until afterwards, because I was in my own roller coaster of emotions of psychoticness, and on my phone that I didn't care. I was just like, oh, what are the? I need this. I need, just out of my mind. But then when I watched it, and you saw a coach on the Titans, or you saw Vrabel get up,
Yeah.
and there was a part of me that I didn't really understand that move, because I'm thinking, you already agreed to the trade,
right?
Like you knew it was happening. But at the same time, he does not speak of his players the way he spoke of AJ. I mean, not even Derek.
It's interesting.
I think we can all fairly say Derek carries that team, right? Or at least has over the last few seasons. They've done an incredible job coaching these guys, but Derek has come to the rescue in a lot of situations, and he's hard on Derek. I find it publicly, it's just like every player's the same. Like I said to you before, they're very patriot. They're mini patriots down there of how they operate. So no player is any more important, special. And then when I hear him go on the Rich Eisen show and say, as long as I'm the coach of the Tennessee Titans, AJ Brown will be on the team. As soon as he said that, I remember thinking, oh, that's going to bite him in the ass. As a joke, not thinking really. And I can tell you this, I don't think you'll ever hear them talk about a player like that again. I think that was a good lesson learned for, I know he's not a young coach, but, he's only been with one team head coach. I don't think he'll ever do that again.
Well, it's also interesting you talk about what a disaster it would have been if that got out. It goes both ways. Like what a disaster it would have been for the Eagles for it to get out that they had agreed to this deal, but they couldn't come to contract terms. And that's why, as Zach has wrote about, that's why they kept the circle so small of people in the building who knew about it.
Oh, Zach, I'm going to read that. I did not read that yet, and I usually read everything you write. I mean that. I will circle back to that. But yeah, no, could you imagine the pushback from fans?
Oh, the uproar would have been insane. It almost would have been more fun to some degree.
AJ Brown was available, and you couldn't come
They had the deal done, yeah.
Like the Titans already gave you the give. They gave you the hard part, which is you can take them. Yeah, that would have been tremendous. And look, I think Philly in general had a great draft. And that was obviously the story of what they did. And the joke was before leading into, Howie's got something up his sleeve. And I remember laughing at that too. I'm like Howie's great and all, but let's everyone needs to chill out.
Settle down. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, he does.
All right. Well, you brought up North Jersey. We want to be respectful of your time, but we do have to bring up, Dianna, your connections to Birds with Friends go deeper than just your family. Our superstar producer, Marissa, once upon a time, you guys worked together.
Bring her in. There she is.
Bring her in. Yes. It feels like it was 2 years ago, right? But it was how many years ago is it now?
2015. I know. I felt the same way.
Back in who was the quarterback for Washington at that point?
Kirk Cousins. It
Could have been anybody. Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Guys, I've covered a lot of football since then. There was nothing better than the RG3 Kirk Cousins days. Nothing better. I mean, you talk about content. We would fight with our new seat. Oh my gosh, my hair was.
Wow,
so
look at
flat.
that on the for the YouTube watchers. Marissa's got some throwback pics.
That's like a very mature look. Look at that black hair. That is embarrassing.
Mine's a little yellowish, so I understand too.
You guys did a great job hiring Marissa based on all the qualities or the reasons why we loved her there is just, first of all, she just loves sports. It's hard to find people that do this for a living, but also love it. And she loves this. And I remember feeling it when I was around her. So if you love it, you're going to be great at it because you enjoy it. And it's like simple, but all our parents all taught us growing up, right? Like, find something you love. And fortunately for Marissa, she did. And now as part of this fantastic podcast that I'm hoping to just get another t-shirt out of anyways. But
well, I will say
happen.
that I was college kid, so nervous. And you were absolutely incredible. Like the way talent respects and you made my job so much fun and taught me so many things. And it was so cool to see like you left to go to ESPN while I think I was still there. I was a senior.
Yep.
So getting to see your rise at ESPN has been awesome. And I'm very grateful for everything you have taught me along the way. So it's
Thank
awesome.
you. That is very nice. And that means a lot to me. And I think it's cool because, look, I'm not going to get up on my little high horse here, but, I think a lot of young journalists see social media, especially females, and they think, you just get on TV because you have pretty hair or, because you can present well. But I think Marissa saw, especially at the NBC affiliate in Washington, D.C., that thing is a grind. And it was the best experience of my life because there isn't anything I do now that even comes close to the workload I did there. So this has all just been so fun for me because I felt fortunate enough to be around really smart people to help build a structure and a work ethic for me. And now I can just apply it to my day. And it's really helped me. And I hope that was your biggest takeaway from us.
100%.
You were down there.
100%. I mean, from going to like Caps morning skate to all the way to Landover, like everything in between, you guys did so much. And that experience taught me so many things. So it's been awesome to see your rise and very happy for you.
Thank you
and
so much.
And happy for you to come on Birds with Friends.
I know, this was good.
This has been a long time coming. So
yes, I hope we can do it again. I got to start breaking more Eagle stories. That's what I realized. That's obviously.
Please don't. No, please don't.
Zach, this is the common denominator. I just realized they're only having me on because of the trade. I thought it was because you guys were like, "Oh, we saw her on TV. We love her. She's a big fan of the show." But all right, I got to.
We needed an excuse to finally reach out. That's the problem.
Well, it's all good. Well, guys, thank you.
I'm a little disappointed there's no like hazing stories of things you did to Marissa or
No, I'll actually say one thing. I was trying to remember stuff yesterday, and I'll never forget you let me write one of your teases on Yogi Berra, and you like gave me credit on air, and I was like, this is so cool.
Wow.
Like I was like,
because you're a Yankees fan,
yeah, it was so awesome, and the fact that you like said like I helped you write that on air, I was like, I didn't need like credit for anything. I just was so happy that you were using what I like suggested.
Oh my gosh, must have been a good joke then, no? Because I hate taking people's jokes without giving the credit. So
yeah, I can't remember what it was, but I remember that feeling like, wow, this was so awesome that she valued my opinion. So
thank you for saying all
I
that.
learned a lot.
What's so wild is, you guys, I'm sure you've been there before, where you reflect back on the jobs you had before where you're at. And you're like, God, I was so clueless. I didn't even know what I was doing.
Yes.
Because you learn so much, right? Like Sheil, I don't know how you reflect on your ESPN days, which I will go on the record and still say you are their biggest loss. I say it all the time. Every time I read you, every time I listen to you, I'm like, I've said it to Kevin, my husband, a million times. I'm like, I can't believe I don't get to work with Sheil. It bothers me that, and I mean this from just like a sharing information, just from content. I just think you make football fans smarter, and those are the types I gravitate to, which is why I love you guys so much, because you're so good at what you do. It's just people think it's so easy. All these morons out here are like, oh, you talk sports all day. How hard could it be? It's hard, and it's one thing to fake it, but you guys do the work, and it's why you guys have so much success.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, I still do feel clueless.
You make Sheil
most of
uncomfortable.
the time,
He doesn't like
but we deflect.
Shots fired at Rich Eisen, I feel like. All right. Well, Dianna, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you so much for joining us, and give our best to the rest of the Birds with Friends
let her
family.
Get some plugs out. I mean, she's got the Instagram. She's got
who
the
doesn't
diary
know? Who doesn't know
bulletin.
where to see?
No, they know how to get her on TV, but like, this is what you respect. See, when you get to that, so then you gotta have some side hustles there too.
Sheil. I've been working
so
on
plug
it.
those. Yeah,
I do. Okay, so I have a blog called The Diary. It's thediary.bulletin.com. You can just Google my name and it usually pops right up. I've been writing, trying to be like you guys, and basically just sharing. I don't really get to tell on TV what I just told you guys about the process. And look, there's not fireworks every week, but there's so much going on in the league and so many conversations that I have that I want to share, but I don't have an outlet. So I write for Facebook now, and they gave me my own blog. So it is called The Diary of NFL Insider Dianna Rossini. So you can go to that, and some of it's fun, but a lot of it's just football. And if you're a football nerd, hopefully you'll give me a follow.
And also, I would say, because Mother's Day is coming up, the on that diary, what you wrote about going back to work, I remember was a very powerful story. I thought that was great, so I think everybody should go read that. It was really
I sent
nice.
that to my wife, actually. I remember that.
That means a lot. Thank you. Yeah, that was a really weird day. I don't know if you guys have ever been in this mental space, but I went to this bagel shop because I just wanted a little bit of quiet time, and my son was with my mom, and I just got a coffee and a bagel. And I wrote it in 15 minutes, which I know for writers, that's probably long. But for someone that doesn't write every day, that's like ridiculous, right? To write something that long.
Yeah.
Because when you just feel it, right? And you just are sharing exactly what's happening or whatever your emotion is. And then I realized that was the easiest thing I'll ever write. Actually, writing about football is hard. So that's what I've been doing, and I've been challenging myself, and I freaking love it. I'm a nerd wannabe newspaper writer that never made it. So that's probably why I have a little obsession with all you guys, because I just want to be like you. So thank you for having me on, and hopefully you guys will check out the diary.
Thank you so much again.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll
Tell
talk
the
to you soon.
Friends family we say hello.
Please. The text I'll be getting after this.
All right, little break, and then we'll be back with Taron.
The last thing you want to hear while listening to your favorite podcast is another gimmicky ad. NJM feels the same way. It's why they've provided award-winning service without the use of mascots or repetitive jingles for over 100 years, unlike just about everyone else. Instead of the gimmicks, they focus on what's important, what they can do for you. When you apply for an auto, home, or renter's policy, NJM will work to ensure you get the coverage that's right for you. You might have heard about their award-winning customer service. That's what you're going to get. And when you switch to NJM, you could save up to 20% on your auto insurance. Wow, off season. I think I know what I'm going to be looking into once this episode's over. No jingles or mascots, just great insurance. NJM. Visit njm.com/podcast for a quote to see how much you could save on your auto insurance. It's hard to find a fast pre-cooked meal that isn't frozen, tasteless, or highly processed. Food that's fast doesn't have to be fast food. Freshly offers quality meals without the hard work. Their meals are designed by nutritionists, cooked by chefs, then delivered fresh. Other meal deliveries need to be prepped and cooked, but Freshly is ready to eat in 3 minutes. No one wants to spend an hour cooking dinner after a rough day at work or an infuriating commute or after recording like a 3-hour-long podcast. Not speaking about anyone particular there. At the end of a long day, takeout doesn't have to be your only option for an easy dinner. Freshly has delicious, chef-made, nutrient-packed meals delivered straight to your door. No cooking required. Fresh and never frozen. Ready to heat and enjoy in just 3 minutes. Freshly is affordable and convenient. Skip the grocery shopping and dirty dishes. Your meals arrive cooked and fresh every week. New meals are added weekly, so you're never stuck eating the same thing over and over. Stop stressing about dinner. Right now, Freshly is offering our listeners $125 off your first 5 orders when you go to freshly.com/birds. Again, we're offering our listeners $125 off your first 5 orders when you go to freshly.com/birds.
All right, back on Birds with Friends, and very happy to welcome in now the trade goes down, and who does A.J. Brown get on the horn with to spread the news? It's Taron Davenport. Taron, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well. It's great to be get an opportunity to talk some shop with you guys. It's been a while, so I'm excited to be on with you.
I mean, you don't have to lie and say that you miss us. I think it's clear that you've gone on to bigger and better things.
Actually, I do miss everybody on the beat. I do, man. A lot of good times, covering the Eagles. I mean, how could I not miss you guys? Like, we got to cover a Super Bowl together.
We miss you. And yeah. I do, before we get into the Titans talk, I have one necessary question, and that is Sheil tells this story of his first day on the Seahawks beat when he screams a question. And Pete Carroll says, "What are you doing? Why are you screaming? You could just ask me." The first day on the Titans beat, was it like, wait, there's real estate here to ask questions?
It was really it was interesting. I was surprised at the free will to ask questions. I mean, you could actually think about what it is you want to say, formulate a question before you shoot it out there. So it definitely was very, very different. But I love the way it was there because, I mean, it just kept you on edge. Like, you had to be sharp and make sure that when you did ask a question, it mattered. And I think that's something I've taken with me here to Nashville.
I would put Turron high on my power rankings of people to sit next to in the press box during an Eagles game. He's got good observations, but he's not bothering you. I remember there was one time, Turron, I think it was Kempsky had his, I think it was his Nigel Bradham MS Paint thing where Turron just elbowed me and pointed to that, and we both were dying for a few minutes. So listen, as we know, we're not going to name names. There could be some people who you see here in the press box, you say, "Oh gosh, I'm sitting next to this person. It's going to be hard to do my job today." Turron is high on the power rankings of guys you do want to sit next to, although you gotta dress the part. I mean, you can't be sitting next to him and looking like some kind of scrub, because then you're really going to look bad.
Now, I'm imagining I'm pretty low on those power rankings.
Yeah, I mean, I learned pretty soon how to tune you out, or it's the same like with your tweets or on this show where if you're saying something that I have no interest in, I don't need to put up an act. Actually, you're fine because I can just ignore you. If it's somebody who I'm trying to maintain some type of decorum with, then I gotta fake it a little bit and act like I'm interested. I don't have to do that with you. Well, as the audience knows.
Speaking of the inane tweets, I do think that before we get into it, I do need to ask Turron for his favorite Dean Pease story.
I knew that was coming. It was like every single Thursday with Coach Pease speaks, I would be like, "Dean Pease on so-and-so." And
how can he do that in front of you guys? That's crazy.
You would just chime in just with a chuckle on it, and it was so funny. But yeah, my favorite Dean Pease moment was probably one time he was telling me about an experience in New Orleans when the Ravens went to the Super Bowl, and he said he was sitting on like a stoop on one of the streets, and the guys were out there, up and down the street just having a good time, and he said somebody came up to him and gave him a bag of food because they thought he was homeless. So as he told me that story, I was picturing it and just cracking up. I love Coach Pease. He's down there in Atlanta doing an awesome job. But yeah, that's probably my favorite Dean Pease moment. He was awesome.
That's pretty good. All right, Turron, let's get to the main event here, and obviously we want to talk to you about A.J. Brown and the expertise that you bring here. I guess to start with, just like generally speaking, in terms of the type of player he is, the type of personality he is in the locker room, what are the Eagles getting? What are Eagles fans getting?
Yeah, I smiled because I think of his smile, and you guys felt it, at his opening presser. He's a guy that when he smiles, like, you can't help but smile back. And there's a certain just brightness and energy that he brings to the room. And even to practice, when he wasn't out there on the practice field, you could feel a different type of energy because he's just such an upbeat, positive, just a great guy to be around. Now, as far as his play style is concerned, rugged, DBs don't want any part of him. I mean, you watch what he's able to do after the catch. and he just is so good. You saw how he's built, wide shouldered, tapered midsection, and then big legs. He's perfect for what he excels at, and that's yards after the catch. In my opinion, he's among the best. I would say probably top 3 yards after catch receivers, just because his confidence catching the football. I know he had the drops last year, but there were some personal things that I'll just leave out that he went through that definitely contributed towards it, and also a lot of concentration. But if you look at the drops he had last year, those were more than he had in his first 2 years. So his hands are okay. As he used to always tell me, you're in good hands with Allstate. That's his saying, but his confidence catching the football, that's what allows him, and get into that with him, ask him about that, because he likes to discuss it, just accelerating through the catch, right? Whereas you see a lot of guys, they slow down and they catch it like that, and then that slows you down, and you can't pull away from the defender as easily as when you sprint through the catch and keep it going, and that's what makes him so good. So as far as the player, I mean, you're getting a guy that's very versatile. He could play the X, he could play the Z, he could play in the slot. If you want to, you could put him in the backfield, but you could get him jet sweeps and things like that. And he's a very good player. There's going to be some times where he disappears a bit. That's an issue, but for the most part, you get this guy on, that team is going to be in good shape, that offense. He'll help out Jalen Hurts a lot.
It's so funny. My 2 takeaways from that introductory press conference, you touched on them. One, the first thing I said was, like, what a smile on that guy. And then the other thing was, like, the shoulders. It's just funny to him, like, him and Devontae Smith playing the same position, seeing them in person. It's so funny how, like, such different body types.
Yeah, total opposites. And it's funny because he was actually bigger. I remember his rookie year because I actually connected with him in January before he was drafted. And we just kept the relationship going. And he got to training camp. And I remember he was like 6'1", 235. I put him aside and say, hey, bro, you can't play at this weight, man. Like, you have to lose weight so you're more sudden at the line of scrimmage. And he did end up, I don't think it was because of my advice, but just because it was what he needed to do.
I think it could have been. We could flex.
Dropping some pounds, and it worked out for him. 1,000 yards as a rookie.
Taron, you catch up with him, like Bo said, you're the first person to get kind of A.J. Brown's perspective after the trade. We read what you wrote. Great column insight that nobody else had, if anybody wants to read that. But kind of take us inside that. I mean, what was his mood at that time? What did he kind of want to get across? And I'm sure also you've gotten the Titans perspective too. So kind of take us through where the two sides disagreed, where this went wrong. Because I'm looking at this and I'm saying this is a home run trade for the Eagles, but I always try to put myself in the other team's shoes and go, why is a team, when a player is 24 years old, has an all-pro ceiling, and is not getting he's getting market value with this new contract, why is that team trading him? So lend some perspective on kind of both sides there and what you learned after the trade.
Yeah, for sure. There was a point where from the Titans camp, I got it, and also from Browns camp, everything was pointing towards that deal being done. The Titans typically don't do deals until July for whatever reason. That's how it's been with all of their big contracts. So, for all their big contracts, because Tannehill was a free agent. He was set to become a free agent. Right. So you look at that situation, everything was fine. $20 million was pretty much the measuring stick. That was going to be the annual contract. That's what Tory Dandy, AJ's agent, had negotiated for Chris Godwin as well as for Mike Williams. But then that Christian Kirk deal came in and yesterday's price was no longer today's price. That's really the best way to put it. And when you have a guy, Christian Kirk, and you got AJ Brown, there's different levels to it. So the pay had to be increased from AJ's perspective. And that's pretty much where they were. Then you had Diggs get his deal. DJ Moore, Philly's own DJ Moore, got his. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, we know what happened with all those, and the market just continued to go up. Just like I said, there's levels from Kirk to Brown. There's also levels from Brown to Hill and Adams and those guys. And I think that's something that the Titans understood. I don't know that AJ's camp understood that, right?
I'm sorry. Go on.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask on that note though, what's the next step for AJ Brown's game in terms of getting to that point? Because like you said, and AJ Brown might think that he's closer to the Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams tier, and certainly the way the Eagles paid him, the fourth highest paid receiver in the NFL, the Eagles are expecting him to get to that tier. So what's the next step in his game? But I did not mean to cut you off. If you had more to add to Sheil's question, that'd be great.
We could do all that in one.
I feel like I'm at an Eagles press conference again. It's like let the coach finish.
You're right about that.
Jump in there.
And another thing.
Now Coach Peterson feels, and now Coach Sirianni, right?
If I could just follow up.
Yep.
I think really what will take AJ to the next level is consistency. That's really the bottom line. He just has to be a more consistent player. That's the only thing that he has to do. But as far as like where in that process, that's when the whole, hey, look, I'm not going to take the field until I have a new contract comes out. And the Titans, there were preliminary negotiations at the Combine, and it was pretty much established that John Robinson was not going to really hash that deal out until he got through free agency and the draft. That didn't work, obviously, because you had the trade. So AJ came back, like they proposed a 20. From what I understand, there was a deal in the neighborhood of $20 million annually that was put forth, and this was without incentives. AJ told me that it was $16 million with incentives up to 20, and he said he would have signed at 22. The Titans, from what I understand, were not aware of that, and they did say that there was no contract with incentives. It was $20 million annually. The response that they got to that was over $25 million annually, in addition to a record-setting $80 million in guaranteed money. And at that point, it was just, all right, this isn't really going to work. So the Eagles became aware that there were other teams. I know the Jets were interested, and then that deal was put together. It was finalized. I think it was like 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock on draft day. And then, as you guys know, there was a negotiation that had to be done. $100 million contract had to be done in a matter of hours, and they got that put together. But in addition to that, Treylon Burks had to be on the clock for them. Available for the Titans to take at 18. So that's more or less how it went. When I talked to AJ, he said the main thing that he wanted to get across was that it wasn't his fault. There's two sides to every story. One side, it kind of seems like his fault, but from his side, it doesn't. So it's just one of those things where you can put the information out there and just let each individual person just figure out where they want to go from there.
So do you think if Burks wasn't on the clock at 18, that the deal would have fell through?
I think so.
Wow.
I do.
I didn't know that.
I do, because you have to look at the player that Burks is, and I know in talking to people in that scouting, they love this kid. They love him. Now, there's obviously some things that have to be tweaked, but you look at what they want as far as their receiver position. He's very similar to AJ Brown in that he gets the yards after the catch, or what Mike Vrabel refers to as free yards. And he's a guy that will kind of like, he's plug and play. And that, now I'm not going to say he's as good as AJ Brown, because I don't believe that, but he could fill that same type of role and bring that physicality. Like Mike Vrabel, he would pound the table for physicality. And he wants it in the rushing attack, but also in the passing attack. And that's what Burks brings.
What about on the injury front, Taron? One of the concerns when you're making a trade, like Sheil said before, you're trying to get in the mind of the team willing to let him go. He's missed a couple games over the past couple of years. Do you feel like that's a concern moving forward?
Down the line, I would be a little concerned about the knees, just because you have those. He had to have procedures done.
Right.
He frankly shouldn't have finished the 2020 season, but.
And he's so physical, right?
He did. No, it was like he was told that he probably shouldn't play, but he played through it. And I know every day he iced his knees. I talked to him. He was icing his knees every day. They managed his reps during practice. There were some days where some weeks where he didn't practice both days. A lot of times he didn't, and he still played through it. And then he had those 2 procedures done. His rugged style is it's going to be conducive to him, getting banged up and things like that. He had a chest injury he dealt with last year, but I think he's going to be fine. It's just you have to manage his reps, like manage that pounding on the knees and put that more towards game day as opposed to throughout practice, which could be tough because you want him to get that timing and just chemistry with Jalen Hurts, even though they're already friends.
That's interesting. I was listening to Jason Kelsey on Chris Long's podcast a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys listened to that podcast, but he was basically saying if he were still playing for Doug Peterson, he didn't know if he would still be playing. He was like, it's different under Nick Sirianni. Like at first he was hesitant to say, I'll take Wednesdays off, but then he got to the end of the season and he's like, this is unbelievable. Like I should have been doing this for longer. I think Chris Long was joking that he could still be playing with some, how some of the coaches do it now. So that's sort of I'm sure that's something that the Eagles hopefully would have discussed already, how to kind of manage AJ Brown. You want him for the long haul. This is a guy who should be entering his prime. Like, don't do any, you want the reps, like you said, but you want him on Sundays. You want him in December. You want him in January. Hopefully, if you're going to get where you need to go. What about the mental health aspect of this? This was very interesting. He opened up. I'm loving seeing more athletes are willing to do this, are willing to be open. We've talked on here about how Brandon Brooks was really like a trailblazer in that respect. But I know he opened up. What did he have to say? I think it was last year, right? Or the year before, where he decided to kind of let people in on some of the stuff he was going through.
Yeah, it was this past season. It was in November that he opened up about experiences that he had last year or in 2020. Okay. He said that he was in a state of depression and he contemplated taking his own life. And, the thing is, and we're fortunate because we get to interact with these guys and like, you understand like, hey man, they're people, whereas people who don't interact, like they don't understand that like, it's not like Madden, like they're not a character on Madden, they're a person. And just like anyone else, there are issues that they go through. And I think for him, the big thing is his daughter, just having her. I remember he told me when he found out that he was going to have a daughter. He told me, I was with my youngest daughter, and he told me, and he looked at my youngest daughter, and he like you could just see the excitement in his eyes, knowing that that's what he's going to experience. So I know that that's just like a source of just joy for him and something that he could always look to as, okay, well, yeah, times are tough, but guess what? I have to live for this. I have to be happy for her. So I think that's the positive thing. I don't think there's going to be issues, but it was surprising when he said it. I love the way the Titans came out and supported him. Coach Vrabel, talked about the culture that they have there in the building where you ask someone how they're doing, you mean that question, and you sit there and you listen to them tell you actually how they are doing. It's not one of those things like, how you doing and keep it moving. So I think he's going to be fine. He still goes to counseling and has developed coping mechanisms. So I don't think that'll be an issue. And then you look at Lane Johnson, what he dealt with. Right. This organization, they're used to, you could even look at Nelson Aguilar, Josh Huff. These are all guys. I told him about both of those guys. I'd say, look, you get down there or up there, you got to stop caring what people think about you because that will drive you nuts.
I was actually going to ask you that. I think sometimes, the whole playing in Philadelphia thing can be a bit overstated. In most places, if you're good, they love you. If you're bad, they're on you. In Philadelphia, though, it's probably a little more pronounced on both ends of that spectrum, right? And I was going to bring up, you were someone who was really attuned to kind of what Nelson Aguilar was going through in his time in Philadelphia. You obviously have a lot of experience in this market. How do you think AJ Brown will handle it? Not just in terms of maybe the attention that's on him, but he's the highest paid player on the team. He's the longest. His contract extends longer than anyone else on the team. He's very much like a face of the franchise now. One's of the faces of the franchise. How do you think he'll handle that part of the job?
I think he's going to handle it well. I think when you look at just the love that he is going to receive, because the fans, Philly fans, if you're going out there and you're busting your chops and you're playing, blue collar style the way AJ does, they're going to love you. And that's what I told him. I said they're going to love you, but when things go wrong, You just have to be ready to face the fire. And it's not the same as it is in Nashville. So I think he's going to handle it. The first time will probably be a little choppy and difficult, but he is someone that no matter what, he's always available as far as when, and this is during the times where the media could, or the PR, they could kind of pick and choose, so if a guy doesn't want to be available, he doesn't have to be available. You know what I mean? He's going to be fine because he always stood up even after losses and even after, tough losses that he may have had something to do with them not winning the game. He stood up and spoke. So I think he'll be fine.
Was it this could be me misremembering, but I think you told a story about maybe at the combine of you like helping a receiver with like tipping off their releases at the line. Was that AJ Brown?
Corey Davis?
No, that was Corey Davis.
See,
yeah.
I listen. See,
Nice. I told you, I was misremembering.
I listen when I ask a question.
I think it maybe
there it is.
Maybe it's too late at night.
Yeah, that was it was crazy because that was my third day here, and I remember it was at one of the high schools. And they had like an open practice, and I was watching them. And every time he would have his outside leg forward, he was going to run an in-breaking route. Every time he was running an out-breaking route, he had his inside leg forward. So I put him aside, because you know me, like I'll talk to these. Hey, come here, man. Come here. Let me talk to you. That's exactly how I did. Come here, Corey. Let me talk to you. And he just looked at me. I was listening. I don't know if you realize it or if Coach Rob has told you, but you tip your routes. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, well, when your outside leg is forward, I could tell what you're going to do as opposed to when your inside leg is forward. If I could tell that, I would imagine DBs are able to tell that too. And he just looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, oh, yeah, I pay attention. And ever since like we had a good relationship develop out of that. But yeah, that was Corey Davis. He was tipping his routes.
What a shot at the wide receivers coach too.
Not really. Coach Rob is a good receiver. He's a good coach. He's a good. I watched, a lot of the drills and stuff he does. And he brought those guys along because AJ was a little rough as far as getting off the line of scrimmage, and he's gotten really good at that. And I know that's through Coach Rob.
Turron, give us the big picture state of the Titans right now. This was a team I looked at before the draft, and I said they're making one more run here with Tannehill, Derrick Henry. They trade for Robert Woods. They're trying to get the offensive line in order. They've got A.J. Brown. They're just going to kind of run it back and see if they can take that step and try to win a Super Bowl. But when they trade A.J. Brown, that changes just like everything for me, because now I look at it, I think I was looking at the lines, and I think the Colts are now the favorites to win that division. Then they draft Malik Willis. So like, what's the state of this team? I know the Willis story is probably huge down there, but what's the state of this team in 2022? Are they sort of like, let's see what we do this year, but let's make sure we keep an eye on the future? Just kind of how do you read all these offseason moves as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's still the goal for them to win the Super Bowl. But when you take A.J. Brown out of the lineup, first of all, I put him right there with Derrick Henry as the most dynamic players, the big play aspect of it. He accounted for 23% of the receiving yards last year. There's a 27% target share that's just up there. You got Austin Hooper, who was signed. As you mentioned, Robert Woods was traded for, and they drafted Burks. I think they're going to count on that group collectively to make up for that. And I think that's going to be good, though, because it seemed like whenever there were tough times, Ryan Tannehill was honing in on A.J. Brown. So I think it's going to be a lot similar to that Eagles team that we covered, where you had a starting five, as Frank Reich would always say, you had a starting five that could score 20 each, as opposed to one guy that is going to score 40 to 50. And I think that's how you have the Titans receiving core now. And remember, Derrick Henry was out for like 8 games, so they're going to have him back. He seems to be right on course as far as getting back to close to what he was before he got hurt. But I think above all else, it's the defense. That team defensively just really rose to the occasion. And Jeffrey Simmons, and I would always tell Simmons that he reminded me of Fletcher Cox as far as that size and the footwork that they have and the strength. So he's going to be really the key to everything, collapsing that pocket. The secondary is going to be interesting. Kevin Byard, another Philadelphia guy via Atlanta. I think the defense is going to be the key thing. So that's going to make them compete.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Which group of pass catchers would you rather have? The 2017 group of Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Nelson Aguilar, and Zach Ertz, or the 2022 group of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and Dallas Goedert?
No Jalen Rager, huh? Just kidding. Just kidding. Listen, that's a tough one. I'm going to say this group because when you have AJ in that mix, a 5-yard pass becomes a 60-yard touchdown.
Yes.
Frequently. So I'm going to say this group. And Dallas Goedert, I think he's an extremely underrated tight end. No disrespect to Zach Ertz, but I think Goddard is underrated. I'm not saying he's as good as Ertz, but I think just collectively, and Devontae Smith he's one of those guys, right? I explain him smooth, and I spell it with a OOVE, instead of, because you got to do it like with slang.
Am I allowed to do that too? Or if I put that in an article?
Tell him, say, look, man, you're smooth, not smooth. Smooth.
I'm going to tell him that the next time I see him. And I'm going to
tell him. He'll get a good laugh out of that. But he's a smooth. I love his game. So collectively, I'll take that group.
Now,
Taron,
go ahead.
I was saying with AJ Brown, you've covered many games at the Link where they have 3 and outs in a row in the first half, and everyone's booing, and it looks like, oh my gosh, he can be a remedy for that. It's like if you have back-to-back 3 and outs, the first down next series, screen, slant, AJ Brown, and he can just change the game. I mean, we saw Deebo Samuel do this for the Niners last year. You've seen AJ Brown do it for sure. So that, in Nick Sirianni's play, what does Matt Nagy have? BU? It should just be find AJ, when things are going badly, just get him the ball and let him do something there.
Watch the 49ers game on Thursday Night Football from this past season. AJ Brown, I think it was 11 receptions. 8 of those were on first downs. It was the most ever in a single game on first down. So, or third down, excuse me. So that lets you know what he brings. But watch that game, and you'll see that is AJ Brown.
My last question was just that if I was hired tomorrow to be the junior reporter for the Titans at ESPN, would you be willing to mentor me?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's not quite my job. No, of course, I'll be willing to mentor you without a doubt.
I actually wanted to ask Taron, this is kind of off topic, but Taron, can you tell people, our audience, about kind of your path to where you are? Because I remember when you were covering the Eagles and you were kind of, hustling in between morning availability, coming back for afternoon availability. People might not know that. And, a lot of students look up to Zach. No students are listening to this for me, but, they're listening to this. So I think they would be, I think it's, it's a great sort of story on kind of what it takes. And, you wait for kind of luck to come your way. But can you explain that a little bit to the audience?
Yeah, I mean, once, so I was able to cover the Ravens for a small newspaper in Baltimore. I did that, and I wasn't there all the time, obviously, because, the Philadelphia area to Baltimore is quite a ride. But then once things opened up with USA Today, the Eagles Wire, covering the Eagles, it was perfect for me because I was actually working another job. I worked downtown at Liberty Place. Right. And so I would go, my lunch break consisted of running to City Hall, catching the train to the Nova Care Center, and getting as much of the presser as I could, and then running out. And as I'm running back to the train station, typing an article on my phone.
That's crazy.
And emailing it to myself, turning my laptop on while I'm on the 15-minute ride back to Liberty Place and publishing the article. It was a lot, man. It was tough, but it's just one of those things when you have a vision, when you have a dream, you're going to do what you have to do to make it happen. And, going to the road games and stuff like that, I'll admit because I had to pay my own way. I'm booking my own flights. I'm if I'm renting a car or Ubering or whatever, just making it happen. So I admittedly didn't stay in, a lot of times the best hotels, but hey, you just had to make it work. So that's really what it was. Having the pleasure of doing Sports Talk Philly when that was in existence with Jeff McClain and Michael Barkin and those guys was great, and that helped too. And it's just opportunity presented itself. The Carson Wentz book, that's something that Triumph Publishing Company, they reached out to me about doing a book, and I don't curse, but I responded like HELL, yeah. Then they said, the one condition is you have to write it in 2 weeks. And I ended up getting it done. But really what it comes down to is you do whatever it takes. You don't let anything get in the way, within reason, obviously, because there's other responsibilities you have to take care of.
And now look at you
great.
now.
Awesome story. I know. Love seeing Taron on TV and thinking about those things. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it pays to have friends, man, because Sheil, you and a lot of other NFL Nation reporters and Sal Powell put in recommendations, and that really, really helped. So I appreciate that. And even, Bo and Zach, and Zach, I messaged you before, just about how you helped welcome me to that beat and made me comfortable, so I appreciate that from all you guys.
Well, I would say you earned it. But a real quick question for you. Have you ever been in a press box where you were not the best dressed man there?
Yeah, Cam Wolf, he brings it too. I give
so
Cam,
you have a very specific example of it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
like
Cam is he does his thing too. So anytime I know, the network's gonna be there, I have to make sure that I do what I have to do.
All right. Well, the legend himself, Taron Davenport, thank you for joining us and giving us the scoop on A.J. Brown, and hopefully we have a reason to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll find out a week from today. I can't wait to know how the schedule is going to be. I'm looking forward to getting back to the link.
And I think Eagles fans are also interested in like the Malik Willis path moving forward. Like that's a guy who they could have drafted in the middle rounds. Like does he have more upside than Jalen Hurts? It will be an interesting thing to follow from afar. So
yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Taron.
Thanks, Taron.
You got it.
All right. Well, wonderful talking to both Dianna and Turron, and in like the upset of all upsets, as we were deciding if there was anything else to say, Sheil says to us, "Should we talk about the Nate Herbig thing?" And so we're here to talk about it.
I said should be the last person to suggest this, but we thought we needed a closing segment, and so I thought that's one thing we haven't covered yet. Don't mistake this for me wanting to talk about the Nate Herbig thing.
Well, it is bizarre, Zach. Do you disagree with that characterization?
Well, why don't you explain what happened?
Well, that's why I'm giving it to the newsman.
Oh, okay.
Nate Herbig was waived by the Eagles. They gave him the restricted free agent tender. Oh, I see, because they said
waive. Yeah.
Yes, they gave him a restricted free agent tender. Nate Herbig signed it. As it turned out, he signed it because the Eagles were trying to trade him, and the Eagles could not consummate a trade. And
now that tender is worth about $2.1 million.
Yep, and it would be guaranteed if he's on the roster opening
or
day,
if he got hurt,
which
is why you waive him and not wait to see what happens in training camp.
So it's surprising because this is an offensive lineman who can start. Right, we've seen that he has position versatility. He's only 23 years old. They've spent time developing him. I agree that there's a risk in training camp injury. I think there's more of an upside in someone else getting hurt somewhere else and or someone needing an offensive lineman and you trade him during camp. One thing that I had heard here is that like the Eagles wanted to open up snaps, second team snaps for Cam Jurgens and who else they have as their backups.
Well, let's think this through, okay? Because the
this
interior
feels like we want to, not to the extent, but that feels like we want to hand the locker room over from Malcolm Jenkins to.
Right. That is a bad example because so it would be maybe Opeta, Jurgens, and Driscoll. Okay, you can't fit Herbig in there somewhere. Who are we kidding?
I agree with you here.
He has had a very weird career. Remember the thing that happened in 2020 where he was starting and then they had the bye week and then he was inactive for a couple weeks. There has always been something a little bit odd about like I don't know if it's Herbig and Jeff Stoutland or Herbig in the front office, but the way that he's viewed has always been a little bit weird. So as I said on Twitter, I feel like this is the second most bizarre Eagles career in recent memory, behind only Travis Fulgham.
Oh God!
I think Carson Wentz is a little more bizarre, but
yeah, I thought you were going to
say you're going to star-cross.
Mention this as much as Casey Tucker or something. In which case, I was about to just sign off. Tuhill, sign off.
Yeah, Casey Tucker famously got in the fight with Sharif Miller for number 76.
Casey Tucker will be back at some point this offseason. We'll have plenty of time to talk about him when they re-sign him as the 90th man in August.
I mean, as I look at it now, I'm not like going to go crazy and say it's a huge deal. I mean, for an organization that goes above and beyond at every move to say, listen, we invest in the offensive and defensive line and we want to make sure we're buttoned up there for every scenario. It's a little bit strange to just get rid of a guy who obviously at some point this offseason you felt like he would be a part of your team. He's played. I mean, it's not always pretty when he plays, but he also doesn't kill you. And I know that sounds crazy, but you watch some teams around the NFL and when a backup guard has to play, it's like, oh my gosh, this is like, screwing entire possessions and series. And to the Eagles' credit, that has obviously not the Browns. I mean, when their backup gets in, you kind of see the offense elevate a little bit, but not all teams are as lucky as that either. So, the Eagles, to their credit over the years, I mean, they've withstood a lot of offensive line injuries and been okay doing so. So we'll see how it, when do we get to watch some practices? I want to come down and watch some practices.
Well, so they are not having the typical offseason program, right? Most teams have a mandatory minicamp. The Eagles don't have a mandatory minicamp, and their OTAs, if they structure them the way they did last year, the deal Sirianni did with his players last year was no 11-on-11s, no 7-on-7s. It was just positional drills, and so based on that, we won't get to watch
showing off these weird one-on-one drills.
I remember that
was the thing. Yeah.
So based on that, we won't get to watch them until training camp.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how it plays out in training camp. But I am very curious to see where Juergens is playing. Is he just lining up at center to begin with? Are they trying him at different spots? Because as we've discussed, that guard center versatility for him, if they actually believe he can play guard, it should change the lens through which you look at that pick, at least I believe.
Well, and I also think the important context there is that under Jeff Stoutland, it has always been like a rookie of that, like a draft pick is focusing on one position for training camp until he has like mastered that position. And then you sort of start giving him reps elsewhere. That has always been how he's done it. So I would be surprised if Juergens is getting like guard reps early on in training camp. My expectation is he's going to be the second team center. And then once he sort of has that, then maybe once the season starts, he's getting reps so that he can be prepared to like be the backup on game day. But we'll see.
The other weird thing is looking ahead to 2023, where say Amalu is a free agent, Kelsey, you don't know if you're going to have back, and you have a 23-year-old guard who has played and not been a disaster. I mean, that would be someone I would think you would want to hold. I mean, I don't know. My gut is just saying
it's hard to get super worked up, but yeah,
it's probably just Stoutland saying, here are the guys I want. Coaches have preferences all the time. Bo, you alluded to it before, that when it felt like his performance was okay and he still wasn't playing. I mean, that is a coaching decision. And I think Stoutland, it seems like, has the most input of any position coach. I think that's fair to say. Jeffrey Lurie, the Lane Johnson pick, the Jordan Mailata pick, Stout told him, and that's why he banged the table for those two guys. And so it probably just comes down to coach's preference, and do we want to pay this guy over $2 million if we don't think he's one of our best backups.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do it for this episode.
Oh, wait, I have a question.
Yeah,
I didn't watch Jason Kelsey's presser. Was he like asked flat out, have you told the team that this is going to be your last year or anything to that effect, or no?
No. So I asked him why he came back, and his answer was it's like his answer was football was fun last year.
He had so much fun last year. Yeah.
He had so much fun, especially toward the end of last year, and that's why he wanted to keep playing. And so he said once, he said his health was fine. Once he was mentally there, it was a no-brainer for him because of how much fun he had. So again, this is a
guy who's planning on hanging it up for sure after.
No, he had a good line when he was asked about kind of looking into Cam Juergens. he said basically they've been asking him to find his replacement for
Right. He said,
let's
be honest. Let's call this what it is. They're like, this is a way for them to make me feel better about them drafting my replacement.
Hey, who had that take? That was
Yes.
basically my
Yeah.
take. Yeah,
Yeah,
see?
so
I've always connected with Kelsey.
Yeah. But he was, he said that
That's funny. I didn't
like
hear that.
he wouldn't, rule out like coaching after football, right? But he's.
I think that was also. I think both Howie and Kelsey were like conscious of downplaying his role after the fact, like almost too much. It felt like. So I don't know. I feel like there was something there.
It's weird regardless.
Yeah.
It is weird for the guy. Again, I don't want to repeat myself for the millionth time, but it is weird to keep talking about the guy's post-football career when he just came off an all-pro season. I mean, I get the age, and normally this is the age we start talking about that, but normally that guy's not coming off an all-pro season and didn't just get paid. It's the highest paid center, highest paid person in his position in the entire NFL, which he did this offseason. So again, if nothing else, I don't buy that he told the team, this is definitely it for me. Go ahead and draft my replacement. Even if he's leaning that way, you just mentioned it. He could have fun this year. I mean, they got the second easiest schedule. They could be in the playoffs. If he stays healthy, he could have fun once again and say, let's bump that up to a 1 year, $15 million next year. And I will return once again.
Also, as Bo chronicled during the 2019 season, he came out of the 2019 season feeling better than he expected, right? Like that was his. He didn't think he would feel like he did, because the year before he obviously felt much worse, right? And then you heard him, Sheil referenced it on the Chris Long podcast, that the way they managed him this past year. So I could also think that Kelsey's probably playing longer than he expected, right? He probably thought
exactly
at one point, like, this is it. And now, like, if you told him in 2018 that he'd be playing in the 2022 season, he might have been thinking, no way. So
right. Well, that's why he says he always takes it year by year, which is probably why he hasn't said, like, this is definitely my last year. He likes to compartmentalize it.
Yeah, I was surprised you both bit your tongue when I did a Chris Long podcast reference, but then I did like how Zach kind of took the Bo role when Dianna mentioned Chris Long, and Zach let out a little flex. I don't know if you heard that, Bo.
I did hear
react.
that.
Okay, yeah,
I
right.
did.
So I think that's, I thought the odds were on Bo being the one to just kind of drop that in there, but I thought that was good.
Yeah. Well, I think we're very slowly rubbing off on Zach. He did the woodpecker naturally the other day.
Okay, yeah, you know.
Well, I gotta tell you this. Between Turron, like, giving tips to wide receivers and Dianna, like, basically in the middle of the trade negotiations, right? Like, this podcast is going to be, man, I have so much ground to make up as a reporter. So that's gonna be my biggest take. Yeah, that's gonna be my biggest takeaway here, right? Like, Dianna was basically in the negotiations, right? And Taron, if I go up to Devontae and be like, you're smooth with a V. Right?
No, I was picturing you. They're coming out.
Away. Yeah.
They're coming out for individual drills, training camp, ZB.
Where's the moment?
Devontae, over here. Listen, if you want to beat press coverage, you can't beat.
All right. I think that would go over well.
Honestly, I know we're joking. This woman, it kind of makes being a reporter fun. Everybody has a different approach. Yeah. Everyone's trying to find their way to connect with the people they're covering. Sometimes you look at somebody and be like, I would never do that. Sometimes you I look at people admiringly sometimes. I mean, I remember Greg Bishop of Sports Illustrated would come to cover Seahawks stuff. And I'm just like, man, this guy's just like working this locker room so much better than I have. And I'm here every day. And so sometimes you look and you admire, like, all right, that person is really good at this. Sometimes you look at it and go, man, I could never even think about pulling off what that person's trying to pull off to connect with this player. It kind of makes it fun.
Yeah. Different strokes for different folks. What a stupid thing to say. All right.
I know, that's right.
Well, I guess that will finally do it for this episode of Birds with Friends. For Zach and Sheil and Taron and Dianna and Marissa and Elijah, we thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again at some point. And as always, we love you.